We're going to check in now with Colonel Mike Turner, who
we are joined now from Denver by retired Air Force Colonel Mike Turner. Good morning once again, Colonel Turner.
Retired Air Force Colonel Mike Turner joins us live from Colorado Springs to talk about strategy and tactics. Colonel, we understand we've been saying...
My first commentary on National Public Radio hit about 10 days before the war started, and I was vehemently opposed to the war and essentially said so in the commentary. And at the time, it was one of the few voices in the national media that was actually stating 10 days before the war that they were opposed to the war, and coming from a retired military officer surprised some people. They really just wanted someone that had an idea of what was going on, that could communicate it effectively to the American public, and that's what I did. I think the first significant incident in my life which set me on the course that I ultimately chose was ninth grade, when I gave a particularly bad oral report. And it terrified me. My mother said, "You need to do that of which you are the most afraid. You need to get good at that." And suggested that I join the debate team. So the next day, that's exactly what I did. And I debated throughout my junior and senior year and went to several events, won several awards, and that probably was the first significant event that put me on the course that I ultimately have pursued. I decided to go to the U.S. Air Force Academy because the institution demanded the very best, and I wanted to fly. Every endeavor I've pursued in my life, I always aspire to do my very best. And this was an institution where the nation was saying, you must do your best to succeed here. And that resonates with me. Flying air rescue in Alaska was incredibly demanding. It lived up to everything that I had thought it would live up to when I was going through the Air Force Academy. It was that same demand of high standards. Life and death missions demand leadership, but they don't just demand ordinary leadership. They demand leadership under crisis, urgent situations where every decision I make and every decision my crew makes can cost someone their life. During the war, I briefed the Secretary of Defense, I briefed the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. I routinely had to brief all of the military commanders in the Desert Storm and the international commanders in Desert Storm. So we were in the war room, and it was the nerve center. When you're in history, you don't realize you're in history. And afterwards you go, wow, that was history. After I retired from the military in 1997, I entertained the idea of going into for-profits for about an hour and ultimately decided that public service was really where my heart was. It's what I'd spent my life doing. And so I went to work for the American Red Cross, and I began working in disaster relief. And I went out on several specific jobs, a lot of tornado work and flood work. Over the course of the past 3 years, I've worked closely with housing counseling agencies around the country, talked with clients that are in foreclosure or close to foreclosure. And what's impressed me the most is how simple many of the things are that we can do to alleviate these very deep and personal crises that these families are going through. And that's valuable experience. That gives me a very well-grounded basis to come up with real solutions for the foreclosure crisis that we're in right now. We've lived in Virginia for about 10 years. We've lived in Fairfax County. Now we live in Loudoun County. We love it here. It's the first opportunity I've had in my life to actually put down roots into the community. I've traveled and moved every 2 years or so when I was in the military, and this is a choice that my wife Kathy and I have made to move here to Virginia and live here and make this our home. And it's a wonderful place to live, and it's a wonderful place to be with our family, our new grandkids. And Kathy's a gardener, so it's a perfect location for that. And Loudoun County is ground zero for two things that I love: Civil War battlefields and democratic politics, and you just don't get any better than that. I've developed an understanding of the real nature of these kinds of problems, and I've served America's communities with distinction for that entire time. I'm ready for this job, and I'd be honored to be the congressman from the 10th Congressional District.